Did you guys see this that Erin Reed fact-checked
Uh-huh.
JD Vance?
Yeah, I checked my inbox like right before
Let me
we
switch this
got
brightness
up in the
setting.
green
Hold
room.
on.
Yeah. What is this with the transing the kids? I mean, for God's sake.
Transing is a weird concept in and of itself.
I know. I'm like, it's so fucking wild to me for so many reasons. But the number one thing that gets to me personally is that they're making all these accusations that there's government agents running around like zapping kids with a ray gun to gender switch them, and then we're all over here like bending over backwards just to get our HRT and shit. Like
Well,
where are these people for the people? Give us the ray gun. Come on now.
I really don't know. I mean, I'm of a woman of a certain age, but I certainly the
You're breaking up a little
folks
bit.
in my age cohort to be ourselves at all, and it's even today with a good deal more understanding than there was prevalent in the 50s and 60s. It's not something somebody just goes, "Hey, I think I'll be trans today." It's
Right.
like it's the most foolish thing ever. Like, no, it's not not a thing.
I'll tell you what, before we move on, I just want to give a quick shout out to Erin in the morning. Freaking Erin rocks. She just dropped
Absolutely.
this. She's on top of debunking this stuff. She's amazing. I can't praise her work enough and compliment it. But we like to look at a piece of her work every now and then. But this is about JD Vance making some wild claims about Tim Walz. Alright, so Tim Walz is all for transing the kids. In an interview with ABC News on Sunday, JD Vance claimed that Minnesota Governor and Harris VP running mate Tim Walz signed a bill allowing the state to kidnap a transgender child if their parents did not approve of their transition. However, the bill Vance referenced actually provides refuge for transgender youth and their parents fleeing unsafe states where their care is criminalized. The legislation contains no provisions allowing the state to kidnap children when their parents do not support their gender transition. These claims arise from an intentional misinterpretation of a provision that specifically applies to custody disputes between parents in different states. So, I imagine the argument here is that they are worried that parents in Minnesota who have a trans kid with somebody who lives in a different state, like say, South Dakota, someplace close by like that, that they would grant them like custody of the child in Minnesota and disallow custody of the out-of-state parent because they didn't affirm the child's transition. That's what I'm understanding of this whole thing.
Yeah, California has a similar law. It has two facets. In a custody dispute that involves a transgender child, if one parent affirms and the other does not, then that gets factored in. It's not the only factor, it's not even the most important factor, but it does get factored into the court's decision. The other is when non-affirming parent lives in another state like Texas, because under Texas law, if the situation is reversed, the non-affirming parent gets custody by default, and Texas gets to extradite the child to Texas to live with the non-affirming parent. So the state laws come into conflict. California's law says Texas's law can stay in Texas. Here in California, If you're here in California, your child is protected and cannot be taken to another state specifically for the purpose of not allowing them to transition. And a lot of people have made hay over that one. Minnesota has a similar law. This particular law, it does both things. It gives that weight to the decision in a custody dispute to what's best for the child, which includes acknowledgement of their gender identity, but it also protects a child from being taken away to another state because of their gender identity. The only time the state itself enters the picture is if during that process, in a disputed custody, if the court finds that neither parent is competent to be the sole caretaker for the child, then the state can step in. But that doesn't directly have anything to do with the child's gender identity. That's just, if both parents suck at their jobs, then the state takes custody. Just like what would happen if a CPS investigation, a child shows up to school with bruises, and so the state investigates, and they find that both parents are beating the child. The state will take the child. That's what they do.
Y'all want to listen to this real quick? I think it's just like a couple seconds.
Oh,
here.
it's delightful, and it is.
I heard Donald Trump.
What's that? Make it full screen.
It is relatively short.
Yeah. Okay, close. Here we go.
Give this speech in Montana he just gave, and he said that Tim Walz has signed a letter letting the state kidnap children to change their gender, that allowing pedophiles to claim, to be exempt from crimes. I mean, this is not true. It's not remotely true.
Well, what President Trump said, and I haven't watched the whole rally.
What he said was not true.
What President Trump said, John, is that Tim Walz has supported taking children from their parents if the parents don't consent to gender reassignment. That is crazy. And by the way, Tim Walz gets on his high horse about mind your own damn business. One way of minding your own damn business, John, is to not try to take my children away from me if I have different moral views than you.
The state to kidnap children to change their sexual identity.
What I just explained to you, I would describe as kidnapping, John. He has absolutely done this stuff. It's not crazy, John. Come on.
It's not.
You should not be able to take people's.
For the record, it's absolutely crazy, right? I mean,
it's just. I mean, that's the fascist way, right? When you're presented with the real facts, you just double down on your lie, call everyone who disagrees crazy, and it's just, the sky is made of green cheese. What's wrong with you, Ember? That's fucking crazy. No, you're crazy. Like, what the hell? Upside down world up in here.
Upside down. Yep. What else we got on the floor here today? Let me see. Good old JD Vance. The claim that HF 146, also known as the Trans Refuge Law, would allow the state to kidnap children stems from a deliberately misleading interpretation of the bill. Terry Schilling, president of the American Principles Project and director of millions of dollars in anti-transgender ads targeting Democrats, pointed to a section of the bill stating that the state can take jurisdiction if a child is present in the state and has been unable to obtain a gender-affirming health care. Deliberate misinterpretation of this clause is the primary source of the famous claim about the Minnesota law. You can see Schilling's claim in context here. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God!
And this was a tweet about it. He tweeted it, and it's this guy. It's sad that why do they get to keep the flag of our country? Why does that get to be their chud symbol?
It's because he had bloody socks one year, and the Boston Red Sox won the World Series. That's why. But he also had a company that's ripped off the state of Rhode Island the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations for a shit ton of money. But give him a pass.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I didn't realize I was muted. I was trying to point out that this is really an awful lot like the fugitive slave laws, 1850s. You know, like
It really is. That's what it does remind me of. Like we're gonna be like in a refuge state.
Well, and there's overlap there too, because women who are going for reproductive health, Maine actually, Tennessee and Kentucky decided that they were going to sue Maine. It's like, hey, well, you know, we took you all on back in the day too. We'll just the ghost of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain will be out on the field to meet you at some point in time. But they were going to sue the state of Maine for saying, yep, no, you know, the law in Maine is if a physician performs a procedure that is medically necessary, obviously, and these procedures are medically necessary, they can't be extradited. They can't be prosecuted by any other state law. And the thing that's rather scary is they'll do it, you know, and they'll do it at a federal level. That was what the Fugitive Slave Act was all about at a federal level, and that's scary.
Well, you're not that far off because, as it turns out, this law is actually a response to another law from J.D. Vance's side of the playing field,
right,
where the state will kidnap your child if you've allowed them any kind of gender care. I believe it's Florida was the model for this
Florida,
section.
And, no, it's the first spot.
Yeah, it straight up says that the state will take emergency custody of your child if they've been subjected to how do they phrase it? Basically, to the effect of gender-affirming care.
If they've been subjected to pedophilia, you mean, Ember?
They've been groomed.
That's the grooming narrative for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
complaining about the state kidnapping your children when the Florida version, literally, the state will kidnap your children because you allowed them to have medical care.
Guys,
every accusation from the right is a confession. Every single one.
Guys,
you just don't know where they all come from yet.
Right? Yeah, it's all these deeply seated opinions on things.